We ain't gonna outrun this Chevelle.
You don't think?
No.
Stay positive.
In the shadowy streets of Oklahoma, beneath the roar of engines and flickering streetlights, legends were born. Men who chased speed not for trophies, but for respect. Among them stood two unlikely icons, Farmtruck and AZN. They weren't flashy, didn't drive pristine muscle cars, and didn't boast exotic hardware, but they were street racing royalty, authentic, relentless, and dangerous. Their 1970 Chevy pickup, a long bed relic with rusted paint, a camper shell, and dents that told stories, became a nightmare for anyone foolish enough to underestimate it. These two weren't just racers, they were hustlers, pranksters, and street psychologists. Their favorite game? Fishing. No rods, no bait, just mind games. They'd talk up their opponent's car, downplay their own, and wait until the money was on the line. Then, Farmtruck would hammer the gas, and AZN would smirk. The kill was clean. The kill was brutal. Street racing, though, isn't just about speed. It's about ego. It's about pride, reputation, and the unspoken rule that respect must be earned at 200 mph. In the high-octane world of Street Outlaws, every driver had something to prove, and behind the roaring engines and nitrous-fueled burnouts was a web of rivalries, politics, and unfiltered personalities. For years, Farmtruck and AZN were the heartbeat of the show, underdogs with an edge, the comic relief that could also leave tire marks on your dignity. They weren't just popular, they were real. While others tried to play the role of villains or heroes, Farmtruck and AZN brought something rare: authenticity. Fans loved their banter, their creativity, and the way they turned a beat-up 1970 Chevy into a street legend. But suddenly, without warning, they were gone. No big send-off, no final race, just silence. Whispers spread fast. Some said it was burnout. Others blamed behind-the-scenes drama with producers and fellow cast members. Many believed it was a mix of both. Sources close to the show hinted at rising tension over money, creative control, and a feeling that Farmtruck and AZN were being sidelined in favor of more marketable stars. The duo had spoken openly about their low pay, earning less than $2,000 per episode, often covering their own parts and repairs. As their following grew, so did their frustration with the structure of the show. But it wasn't just about money, it was about respect. Despite being fan favorites, Farmtruck and AZN often felt like outsiders in the show's hierarchy. The power dynamics, particularly around figures like Big Chief, made it hard to navigate. There were disputes over race call-outs, production influence, and even the way rules were enforced. Their quiet exit to Meapir wasn't just a departure, it was a statement. They chose silence over spectacle, but that silence spoke volume. To many fans, it was a clear rejection of the politics that had started to overshadow the passion. While the world of Street Outlaws rolled on without them, something felt different, less fun, less honest. Because when Farmtruck and AZN walked away, they didn't just leave the show, they took its soul with them. To understand their disappearance, you have to understand who they clashed with. Because behind every revving engine on Street Outlaws was a feud brewing, and Farmtruck and AZN had more enemies than most: the Thunder Valley Days and the Rise. Before the fame, they ran the underground circuits. Farmtruck was a 12-year-old kid, hooked on his dad's '56 Ford pickup, falling in love with the adrenaline that came from the open road. AZN, his lifelong friend, was the fast-talking sidekick, the one who played psychological warfare, while Farmtruck played horsepower. Together, they were inseparable and unstoppable. They owned the stage at Thunder Valley Raceway, Oklahoma's gritty proving ground for outlaws, dreamers, and speed junkies with something to prove. Farmtruck and AZN weren't just racers, they were showmen, and their weapon of choice was as unassuming as it was deadly. Their 1970 Chevy C10 long bed didn't turn heads at first glance. In fact, most opponents laughed when they pulled up to the line. The rust, the dents, the camper shell, the Ziz license plate. It looked like it had just rolled out of a junkyard, but that was the point. Underneath the weathered exterior was a monster, a custom-built engineering marvel designed to deceive and destroy. At the heart of it was a fire-breathing 632 cubic-inch big block racing engine, pushing over 1,000 horsepower. It was juiced with not one, but two stages of nitrous, ready to explode with torque the moment Farmtruck mashed the pedal. The QA1 mod shocks kept it glued to the pavement, while the reinforced chassis, built by Hot Rods to Hell, absorbed the brutal punishment of street-level drag battles. The drivetrain wasn't left out either. A Rosler Turbo 400 transmission delivered raw power through a two-piece factory drive shaft into a bulletproof 9-inch quick-performance rear differential. The exhaust system? Custom stainless works headers feeding into Black Widow mufflers, giving the truck its signature rumble that echoed through the Oklahoma streets like a war cry. This wasn't just a car, it was camouflage. A street weapon dressed in Grandpa's work truck clothes. It was designed to lull you into a false sense of confidence, then blow past you before your tires finished spinning. The deception was so complete, so perfectly executed, that it became the duo's trademark. Every win wasn't just a victory, it was a lesson. And every time that truck lined up at Thunder Valley, the crowd leaned in just a little closer. They knew what was coming. They knew the sleeper was about to wake up, and someone's pride was about to get run over. Farmtruck and AZN didn't just race. They embarrassed the unprepared, and their legendary Chevy was the hammer they swung in a world full of scalpel builds and six-figure egos. But under the hood wasn't the only place heat was building. Enter Big Chief. If Street Outlaws had a king, it was Justin Shearer. Big Chief, he wasn't just a racer, he was the organizer, the gatekeeper, the voice of authority. He created The List, a dynamic ranking of the top 10 racers, where position was earned by defeating the one ahead of you. It was an honor just to make the list, unless, like Farmtruck and AZN, you believed the whole thing was rigged. Farmtruck felt disrespected. He believed Chief favored others, especially those with sleeker cars and bigger budgets, and the resentment was mutual. Big Chief saw Farmtruck as loud, obnoxious, and perhaps a painful reminder of someone he'd lost. Tyler Flip Pretty, his best friend and racing partner, who died tragically in 2013. Flip's absence left a void in Big Chief's life, one that Farmtruck and AZN, with their tight friendship and comedic banter, may have unintentionally reopened. Some fans believed that every time Chief saw them, he was reminded of what he no longer had. That pain, left unchecked, turned into quiet hostility. The Precious problem. But the tension didn't stop there. A major turning point came with another racer, Precious, a rare female presence in the testosterone-fueled world of Street Outlaws. She was fiercely protected by Farmtruck and AZN. They respected her grit. Big Chief, not so much. During the filming of a new season, Precious clashed with Big Chief over rule changes. It got ugly. Rumors swirled that Chief's wife, Jackie, was involved. Precious stood her ground, and so did Farmtruck, siding against Big Chief once again. The feud reached a boiling point. Then, without warning, Chief disappeared from the show. Fans were stunned. Some said it was because of the fights. Others believed it was the brewing war with Farmtruck. Big Chief denied it, saying he simply disagreed with the show's Race Your Way In policy, which gave preferential treatment to established stars. But viewers weren't buying it. Tensions had been simmering for years, and something had finally snapped. The money myth. Contrary to public perception, the racers on Street Outlaws weren't millionaires. In fact, they were barely scraping by. Farmtruck was outspoken about the harsh reality behind the scene. The money from the show? It's not coming to us, Farmtruck admitted, pulling back the curtain on one of the best-kept secrets in reality TV. Fans were stunned. The roaring engines, the million-dollar looks, the big ratings, it all created the illusion of wealth. But behind the scenes, it was a different story. People think we're rich, he continued, but I can show you the receipts. And he meant it. The parts, the labor, the maintenance, it all came out of their own pockets. For every thrilling episode viewers watched at home, Farmtruck and AZN were scraping together cash, sacrificing time, and emptying savings to make it happen. They weren't pampered stars. They weren't handed six-figure contracts. They were street racers, mechanics, fabricators, and self-made personalities who got paid less than $2,000 an episode. Total, not per person, not including expenses. There was no per diem, no travel reimbursement, no parts stipend. They were going broke to stay on TV. And while Discovery raked in millions in ad revenue and Street Outlaws became a flagship hit, many of the racers were left living check to check, with blown engines, worn tires, and mounting bills. Farmtruck had once owned a thriving HVAC business before the show began, but as filming demands grew and time became scarce, that business faded. The fame, ironically, became a financial burden. AZN echoed the frustration in interview. People see us on screen, screen and assume we're living the dream. But this ain't Hollywood. We're working 18-hour days on cars, filming, doing events, and then going home, bro. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the principle. They were risking their lives for each run. These weren't choreographed stunts. These were real cars on real streets with real danger. One blown tire, one mechanical failure, and things could turn fatal. Yet the reward was barely enough to cover a rebuild, let alone support their families. For Farmtruck and AZN, it was a breaking point. They had built their names, carried the show's humor and heart, and still ended up fighting for scraps. The disconnect between fame and fairness finally pushed them to walk away, not from racing, but from being exploited. And that choice would change everything. Feuds on all fronts. Big Chief wasn't the only one on Farmtruck's hate list. There was Ryan Fellows, who bested them on the list and ignited a rivalry. Though tragically, Ryan later died in a car accident in 2022. Farmtruck, despite their history, paid his respects and honored his skill. Then came Chuck Seitinger, loud, brash, and, in Farmtruck's eyes, a walking disaster. Chuck wasn't just a racer. He was a whirlwind of personal chaos, volatile energy, and bad decisions on four wheels. He had a Mustang that guzzled money and patience like fuel, yet delivered little more than broken promises. While most racers showed up to the track focused, Chuck arrived with baggage, both metaphorical and literal. He was raising 12 kids and somehow still found time to feud with nearly everyone on set. Chuck's mouth ran faster than his car. He was always in the middle of a shouting match or grumbling about his luck. He had a knack for turning garage talk into heated debates. And if he wasn't losing on the track, he was losing patience with someone off it. Fans were divided. Some admired his raw passion. Others saw him as an emotional powder keg. Farmtruck fell firmly into the latter camp. He thought Chuck was more focused on drama than performance, a man burning rubber and bridges with equal intensity. But even Chuck's antics couldn't overshadow the deep and bitter Cold War between Larry Larson and Jeff Lutz, two giants of the street racing world, whose dislike for each other was almost palpable. Both were perfectionists, both had massive egos, and both believed they were the top dog in the sport. Where Jeff Lutz was deliberate and technical, Larry Larson was blunt force and aggressive. Their builds were different, their strategies clashed, and neither was willing to concede an inch. Their feud wasn't about petty insults, it was philosophical. They disagreed on how cars should be built, how the sport should evolve, and even how racers should carry themselves. Farmtruck, known for disagreeing with plenty of racers himself, found this rivalry uncomfortable to witness. The two barely spoke off camera, avoided eye contact in the pits, and when they were forced to race head-to-head, the tension was electric. Their grudge added a sharp edge to the competition, a reminder that in this world of high-octane machines and higher stakes, respect was earned in fractions of a second, and rarely given freely. To Farmtruck and AZN, it was all proof that street racing wasn't just about engines. It was about personalities, egos, grudges, and the human drama that made Street Outlaws must-watch television. The disappearance. Eventually, the tension boiled over. Farmtruck and AZN walked away from the show. Fans were heartbroken. The streets felt quieter. The humor, the hustle, the sleeper truck, gone. But they weren't finished. They launched a spin-off, but it wasn't just good. It was a hit. Farmtruck and AZN didn't just walk away from Street Outlaws, they leveled up. The gritty underdogs of the street racing world turned their raw charisma into a fully independent brand. Their show, Farmtruck and AZN, premiered on Discovery with a fresh vibe. Still about speed, still about cars, but also about heart, humor, and hustle. And fans couldn't get enough. Their chemistry, honed through decades of friendship, translated effortlessly to screen. Where other racing shows leaned into cutthroat rivalries, Farmtruck and AZN gave audiences a buddy comedy feel with genuine passion for machines. Their dynamic was electric. AZN with the wisecracks and hustle. Farmtruck with the deep mechanical know-how and dry wit. Whether they were building wild new rides or pulling off elaborate fishing schemes on unsuspecting racers, every episode was unpredictable, original, and fun. Their shop, Farmtruck and AZN Garage, became a hub of creativity. It wasn't just about repairing engines, it was about imagination. They built outrageous machines that combined engineering with entertainment. The Dung Beetle, AZN's turbocharged VW, the Gonorail, a street-legal rail car, and even the air cannon, used to launch watermelons, t-shirts, or whatever they could think of. These weren't just builds, they were statements, showing the world that car culture could be weird, wild, and wildly entertaining. Off-screen, they created a merchandise empire. Their apparel line, hats, shirts, hoodies, stickers, sold out repeatedly online. Fans loved the designs, but more importantly, they loved what it stood for: authenticity, ingenuity, and a refusal to conform. Even their social media presence exploded. Their YouTube channel became a playground for deep dives, behind-the-scenes footage, and unscripted antics, racking up millions of views and a loyal subscriber base. Without the politics of Street Outlaws, Farmtruck and AZN were finally free to be themselves. And in doing so, they didn't just survive outside the show. They thrived. They proved that success doesn't come from winning every race. It comes from building something that no one else can replicate. A legacy built on loyalty, grit, and having a damn good time doing what you love. AZN finally got behind the wheel with his beloved 1966 Volkswagen Beetle. Farmtruck, despite a health scare in 2016, recovered and continued chasing his passion. Their merchandise line took off. Fans wore their hats, shirts, and slogans like a badge of honor. They had won, not just races, but independence. Big Chief's final word. Despite everything, Big Chief kept racing. He pivoted to other ventures, including a YouTube channel with his partner Jackie. He still believes in the sport. In 2015, he told Drag Illustrated, "I don't see a time in my life when I'll ever stop street racing." Yet the absence of Farmtruck and AZN changed the show's chemistry. Even with spin-offs like No Prep Kings, something felt missing. Chief never embraced the no-prep format and often sat those races out. Fans noticed the energy had shifted. While Chief insists there's no bad blood, fans remain skeptical. His cryptic remark, "If you're street, be street. If you're not, don't be," felt like a shot fired. The war of words may be over, but the rivalry still echoes through the streets. What began as a simple love for speed became a saga of rebellion, betrayal, and ultimately redemption. Farmtruck and AZN may have rolled away from the official Street Outlaws roster, but they never left the hearts or screens of their fans. In fact, their departure only deepened their legend. They proved something vital in the world of competitive street racing. You don't need the flashiest car or the biggest crew to make history. You just need grit, authenticity, and heart. Their story wasn't about dominating the top of the list. It wasn't about corporate sponsorships or staged rivalries. It was about passion. Farmtruck and AZN reminded viewers of the garage days, the smell of motor oil, the busted knuckles, the 3 a.m. test runs on back roads lit only by headlights. They made the racing scene feel real again. In a world where ego often burns brighter than rubber, they brought humility, humor, and a deep respect for the roots of the sport. They never claimed to be better than anyone. In fact, that was their strength. While others puffed their chests and talked trash, Farmtruck and AZN let their actions and that legendary rusty Chevy do the talking. They lost races, they made mistakes, but they never faked who they were. That honesty struck a chord in viewers. They weren't just watching racers, they were watching two best friends living a dream and doing it their way. And when the politics and pressures of TV got too heavy, they didn't complain. They walked away and built something better. Their spin-off YouTube channel, garage, and merchandise empire weren't just side gigs. They were an empire of freedom. They took back control of their narrative, and in doing so, inspired countless fans and future racers to chase their passion, no matter how unconventional the path. Farmtruck and AZN didn't just leave a mark on the asphalt, they left it on the culture. Because in the end, street racing isn't just about crossing the finish line first. It's about doing it with style, with soul, and with the kind of loyalty and friendship that no engine can outrun. Because that's what outlaws do. So next time you see a rusty pickup at a red light, don't laugh, don't smirk. It might just be the Farmtruck. And if AZN's in the passenger seat, you're already the passenger.